adjusted exhaust, and 480 AC, so you roll the windows down to get the air. Not bad for 262,000 miles and 20 years old though. Anyway, getting into what's on my mind today. My wife currently works a job that is in a sector typically populated by men. I think in her now not counting office workers in the sector, because basically there's a dispatch office that dispatches work to the people she does. She's an underground utilities locator. Well, anyway, so she works with all kinds of people. She a lot of times has to respond to emergency situations. As an example, one time a car accident happened, and she had got called out at like 4 in the morning. Had to go to where this car accident was and locate underground utilities in that area so that they could put a new power pole up because the car crash took out a power pole. That kind of stuff. Alright. Well, anyway, the other day she was working with a group of contractors. There's underground utility locators that are broken up by like what they do. You know, it can be like water, sewer, gas, electric, internet, anything that's buried. Some companies have their specialty. So a lot of times on, say, an emergency like the one that she had where, you know, someone took out a telephone pole and they had to have a car come out there, or they had to have her come out there to find any gas or electric, they'll have other people out there at the same time looking for water and internet and TV and all that stuff. That's kind of the way it works. So she works with all kinds of folks, in and out, day in and day out. Well, the other day, she was working a job site, and a guy that worked for a different company doing the same kind of work she does, who, quoting her, was old enough to be her father, came up and started asking about her tattoo. She's got most of a full sleeve done on one side. And just talking about tattoos, she's like, oh yeah, I've got to support the troops, and I've got, you know, my sleeve, and I've got my wedding band, and I've got I got one for my kids, you know, whatever she's got. Okay, cool. Well, this guy keeps talking, and eventually he like starts flirting with her pretty good, hitting on her, and she's showing zero interest in this. And you know, the guy's well aware of the fact that she's married. Both of us have our wedding bands in the form of a tattoo. Anyway, she was talking to the guy, and he's like, man, you know, you're just real nice, you're real sweet, you know, I'd like to just put you in my truck, take you home. And she goes, you'll die trying. And one of the guy's co-workers, I don't know if it was a manager, a lead, a boss, whatever whatever term, came up. My wife had to get in her truck to get on her computer and put some stuff in, and she had to get back out, and the guy's moping around because apparently he had gotten a pretty decent talking to by this co-worker of whatever sort he was. Anyway, there's two things that I take away from that. I do think that there's such a thing as toxic masculinity, and I think that that's masculinity without a manly direction or being accepted for what it is. When you shame a guy for acting like a decent guy, he's going to feel bad about it and then act out in ways that aren't socially acceptable. My view. I could be wrong. And then you had another guy that was very secure in his masculinity. He hadn't been, toxic masculinity is everything that's wrong with the world for the entire history of the world and blah, blah, blah. So this guy, whatever his position was, I don't know if he was in a position of authority or not, gets up in this other dude's face and says, you need to leave her alone, on and on and on. And here's the sad part about it. Like, since they aren't co-workers directly, since they work for different companies, sexual harassment doesn't follow. Like, there's no, like, okay, where I work, it's, several thousand people a shift. I've talked about that before. And via Facebook, in person, or walking halfway across the building to find someone, if anyone harasses anybody like that, there's a common management system and common steps to be taken. So she can't go report it directly to her boss and then them call this dude in and say, hey, you need to straighten up and fly right and don't do it again or you're fired. So just stuff like that I don't get. Like, I have spoke to a ton of women in the workplace over the years when I have been single and when I have been married, and I have only gotten in trouble one time because the woman started it. I'll leave it at that. So, and the manager explained, like, look, I have to tell you this, it's company policy, but I believe you, don't worry about it, you're fine, just don't let it happen again. And I have always behaved myself very professionally around women. It takes me a very long time before I will mention anything of a sexual nature to women. Like, there was one woman that I worked across from at Ford for, what, three years, I think? And it took us it took us 6 months just to get talking where, we were co-worker buddies. And then it took another 6 months on top of that, like, talking about, we'll just say, more intimate details. Like, as an example, while we were decent co-workers and, had gotten familiar, one time my wife and my mother had conspired to plan a couple's road trip for me, where my mom took the kids and just my wife and I got to go out for a long weekend and have some alone time as grown-ups. And we had a blast, and that's happened a handful of times since my wife and I have been together. I love it every time it gets to happen. And I told my coworker about this. He's like, oh, y'all were out. I'll let you fill in the blanks. I'm like, well, yeah. No kids, no responsibility. What do you think we were doing? Among other things. We went zip lining, went sightseeing, had a good time. So, and, we would both talk about that. And like one time, I don't mean nothing by this, but she had gotten together with a nice enough guy, and she ended up getting pregnant. She's a very happy mother. And when she was changing due to all the hormones that come into the female body during pregnancy, at one point her outfit wasn't quite fitting her. And my company does have a rather strict dress code. And I walked up to her and I said, hon, I don't mean nothing by this. We've been friends for, 2.5 years. I don't mean nothing by this, but you're having problems up top. She goes, oh my gosh, I know. I need to go buy new everything. So, once you earn a level of trust and kind of set boundaries in a friendship or relationship, sure, you earn the way to talk to someone about more intimate, personal, or sexual content, not necessarily in a come-on type fashion, just in a, hey, you're about to have a wardrobe malfunction, or hey, you got to, your pants pocket's ripping away and it's fraying the fabric pretty good, so you might need to retire them jeans, or oh my gosh, my wife, what, fill in the blank on that. But it just doesn't make any sense to me when people in general, and I've seen this go both ways. I've seen crazy predatory women that act the same way as a lot of guys do, and I think that crap is You know, if it's sexual harassment one way when a dude comes onto a woman and it's unwarranted, it should be sexual harassment if a woman comes onto a man and it's unwanted. My opinion. So I don't get it. I don't understand why people act that way. I always try to treat other people the way I want to be treated. I always try to treat everybody with as much respect as possible. And when I say that, there's a woman at work who I can't stand. I'm on a different shift as her. I do everything I can to avoid speaking to her at all costs. And that is as respectful as I can be. She caught me talking with another coworker, called me a flirt, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to respond to that. And then one day we were passing each other doing that. You know, I'm going in, she's going out the door, and she said something and I didn't even dignify it with response. I got nothing to say to her. When we were on the same shift, her and I had an arrangement once a year. Her and I would get into a yelling match. Worked out great until I went to a different shift. So, you know, is what it is as far as she goes, but I still try to treat her with respect and dignity. I just don't get why people act that way. You know, people are more than their sexual organs. People are more than their ability to do things. I don't understand it. So, anyway, that's kind of what I got for today. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Catch y'all next time. Stay safe.